Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our Friday edition of our show. We made it through another week. Want to thank each and every one of you for kicking off your weekend with us here at A's Day. I'm your host, Joe Grotto. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. Today is Friday, November 21st. We had a surprise move occur as part of the MLB Rule 5 draft deadline day that came and went this past Tuesday, as JJ Bleday was designated for assignment. We'll discuss what that means in 2026 and what it may symbolize for the direction of the franchise. In addition to the designation for assignments, the A's added 3 players to the 40-man roster to be protected from the Rule 5 draft. We'll discuss who those 3 selections are and what part of the puzzle they may be for the A's in 2026 and for years to come. And if you're unsure what the Rule 5 draft is, no worry. We'll be sure to give an overview of what that is all about. As the offseason is in full swing, the bullpen is in an area of need where the A's certainly need to upgrade. We will explore some options that are out there via free agency and those that have been rumored to potentially be on the trade block. At the end of today's show, we will continue on with our series of this player in A's history. Today, we are taking it back to the 80s and talking about Carney Lansford. Holy Toledo, let's go A's. All right there, A's Day fans. Thank you once again for spending part of your Friday with us here at A's Day for our newest edition, talking everything athletics baseball. As a reminder, continue to follow along with our other platforms outside of our podcast episodes that are offered for you, the lovely audience, twice per week. Wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcast, more than likely you'll be able to listen to A's Day as well. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and so many more. I feel like I find a different platform each week. Continue to download, listen to us. We appreciate all that have been there from the start, and for all of our new audience members that continue to come and that will continue to roll along for months and years to come. Be sure to also follow along with our social media platforms on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball, and be sure to follow along for our video content, including video editions of these episodes, as well as our player interviews and so much more that we are going to create in 2026. Be sure to follow on our YouTube channel at A's Day Podcast. And to become an official subscriber of A's Day, check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day for just $2 a month. You'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirts, A's autographed memorabilia, future athletics, game tickets, and so much more as we are able to grow this platform collaboratively. And be sure to take a peek at our active GoFundMe campaigns. We appreciate all of your contributions. Every little bit counts towards our goal of becoming a full-time platform and to be able to travel to different destination cities to create the best baseball content for you as possible. So appreciate all of your continued support. Okay, let's get to our first topic of discussion today. And this occurred earlier this week, I believe on Tuesday, this past Tuesday. The Athletics designated outfielder JJ Bleday for assignment. Really a surprise move. I did not see this one coming. The A's are moving on from their opening day center fielder from the last couple of seasons, and initially they acquired him from the Miami Marlins, which is the team that drafted him. But they acquired Bleday heading into the 2023 season. Won the job out of camp. That trade was a 1-for-1 deal with Miami that sent left-handed pitcher A.J. Puck, if anyone remembers that tall, lanky lefty, still in the league, throws absolute gas. Definitely had some inconsistencies with his command. And in fact, in this trade, both players proved to have inconsistencies and haven't necessarily lived up to their first-round draft pick billing thus far in their careers, respectively. Puck has been beset by injuries, unfortunately, and Bleday has had some of his struggles defensively and has been up and down at the plate for sure. Bleday's definitely shown flashes of consistent power, but in between that is a lot of swing and miss, a lack of contact, a lack of two-strike discipline, a lot of things that certainly reared its ugly head towards the end of his athletics tenure. When he first came on the scene with the A's, he did have an initial struggle through 82 games. He did hit 10 home runs, but he only batted $195. Followed up with a much stronger campaign in 2024, won the job again in center field, had an opportunity to be the everyday guy, ended up playing 159 games in 2024, batting .243 with 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, 43 doubles, absolutely impressive stuff, a .762 OPS, a 120 OPS plus, and a 2.1 WAR. Now, he definitely left plenty to be desired in terms of his defense, and it's not his fault. Because I think by trade, he's more of a corner outfielder, but as compared to, I guess, was on the roster at the time, Bleday served the best purpose to be the everyday center fielder. He has a rocket for an arm, but it's more his range isn't as fleet as foot as your typical average major league center fielder. And it seems like he's more destined to play a left field or right field role, but he was plunged into that role, and I don't think it ever, while it did slowly improve, I don't think it got to a level that was going to be serviceable enough to be a consistent starting center fielder for the A's. But he did follow up offensively. 2024 showed a lot of promise, and that's why me, along with a lot of people throughout A's Nation, I'm sure, had the feeling that Bleday was going to have that later in his career surgence. Like, this was going to, 2025 was potentially going to be his coming out party, but unfortunately he did regress in 2025. I mean, you had to like the 20 home runs and the 43 doubles going into 2025, tons of extra base hits, living gap to gap. It seemed like he was starting to take those specific steps, the proper steps. And then unfortunately he regressed. The strikeout rate climbed by 7% from 2024 to 2025. And his line was as follows. He played in 98 games, batting .212 with 14 home runs, 39 RBI, 17 doubles, a .698 OPS, a .92 OPS plus, and a negative .3 WAR. That's below a replacement level player. That's just not going to get it done. And it kind of seemed like, and this season was in the midst of 2 send-downs and call-ups. It seemed like you wondered, he was starting to get his power stroke back at AAA, and you saw it even in bursts when he came up, but just couldn't string it together, unfortunately. It seemed like he kind of got caught in between with his approach and didn't have a consistent plan moving forward. It's really a shame because I really thought he was someone that was going to be more of a mainstay in this franchise, and the steps back that he took, he just never got off to the start that he needed in this season, and kind of just felt like he was always treading water, and he was sinking rather than swimming. So, best of luck to him. Obviously, I do believe the A's believe this is the best move for the forward momentum of the franchise because they're fully invested and they have full belief in Denzel Clark being the everyday center fielder. So unless that you're going to move Bleday in a trade or you're going to just have him be in your system at the minor league level, just didn't feel like it was a relationship that was going to be lasting for too much longer anyhow. So, I know I had mentioned on previous episodes that I thought maybe the Cincinnati Reds could be a trade partner if they're looking for a left-handed outfielder bat, but I think Bleday's regression was so severe that I think his value decreased to a point He'll probably he is most likely going to hit the free agent market. I believe he did today. After the designation for assignment, that team has 3 days to try to partner with the team, and if they don't have anyone that will trade for his services, it ends up with a non-tender, and then that player is set to be a free agent, free to sign with any major league club, which I do believe happened today officially with Bleday. No one wanted to engage in trade talks for Bleday services. I feel like if there is a team that may be interested out there, they can acquire his services without having to give the A's anything in return. So being able to wait through that process for 3 days, I do think is something the league seemed pretty unified on, and now we'll see where Bleday ends up for the 2026 season. That does conclude his 3-year stint with the A's, and like I said, I do believe it's a matter of what could have been. We had the opportunity to meet Bleday a couple times during this past spring training, so appreciate him taking time to chat and interact with the A's fans. He will be missed. He was definitely someone that was respected, and I think this was just a really tough year that I think he has the opportunity to go to a new environment and kind of start over and kind of reshape who he is as a hitter and improve on his game as a defender. But if he does get back into that 2024 form, or at least mirrors it or gets pretty close to it, I think that team is going to like taking a flyer on him. And I think him being only age 28, there's still time. He'll latch on somewhere, and he's a guy that definitely easy to root for. So best of luck to JJ Bleday, wherever he ends up in 2026 and beyond. It won't be with the green and gold, but we'll certainly make a footnote of it here at A's Day, wherever he does find a new home. Now, with the timing of the Bleday designation for assignment, and coincides with the A's filling up their 40-man roster with players they wanted to protect from the Rule 5 draft. That was also deadline day for that this past Tuesday. It seemed to be MLB decision day. Maybe they should rename it. So 3 players the A's are adding: Braden Nett, Junior Perez, and Chen Zhuang to their 40-man roster to keep them out of the Rule 5 draft being held on Wednesday, December 10th in Orlando, Florida. So let's start with Nett. He's the highest profile of the three prospects. The 23-year-old right-hander came over from the Padres as part of that Mason Miller deal. He spent the entire season in Double-A between the two affiliates. Nett started 24 games and combined for 105 2/3 innings pitched of 3.7 ERA ball while striking out nearly a quarter of opponents. He walked 10.3% of the batters he faced and has struggled to throw strikes consistently throughout his career. So that is something that is still a work in process. He's looking to harness his stuff in a little bit more so that he can pitch a little bit more to each quadrant in the plate and throw more strikes at the end of the day. He has a 4-pitch mix, which definitely gives him a chance to be a future big league starter, though the command development will be very interesting, and the stuff is going to make you want to lead middle to back end of bullpen type of guy. So we'll have to track that, but that is one of the players that the A's felt were necessary to protect from the Rule 5 draft. Another guy is Junior Perez, 24 years old, also began his career in the San Diego Padres system. He was traded to the A's while he was in rookie ball for Jorge Mateo back in 2020. A native of the Dominican Republic, he's a right-handed hitting outfielder who connected on 26 home runs between the top 2 minor league levels. There's a lot of swing and miss to his game, but he has power and takes a lot of walks, so there is value in that and fits hand-in-hand right in with the A's offensive philosophy. So you gotta wonder, that was kind of one of the shocking, or not necessarily shocking, but surprising players that they protected from the Rule 5 draft, because he isn't in their top 25 of prospects ranked. Zhuang, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, and Nett certainly are. But Perez was a surprise here, but I think there's something they like about what he can bring in terms of that power and his ability to get on base too as well. He's shown an increase in power over the last 2 stops at those minor league levels. So you wonder if they have some sort of plan for him. I don't think for 2026, but maybe 2027, 28, something like that. There must be something that is standing out to the A's in that baseball operations department, because it kind of seemed like a random selection, a random player to save from the Rule 5. I feel like there was other guys that fit this mold that I think could have had that opportunity to be saved and protected, like a Daniel Susac. I'm very surprised that they left him unprotected from Rule 5. I don't think anyone picked him up, but certainly had the opportunity, now he will have the opportunity to be drafted in December. So I feel like at that point, that is a team, there is someone that is going to swoop up Susac for the power potential, but that'll be a whole nother episode that we can go dive deeper into that. Maybe around the Rule 5 draft day in December, we'll talk about Susac's unprotectedness, and now he's going to be open to a bunch of teams that I feel like may be interested in the services, because there was an opportunity that Susac was going to be the backup catcher for the A's this year, and now he may have an opportunity to be on another club next year. So we'll have to track and see what that looks like, and then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, and I think A's are going to have an interesting offseason now navigating, creating that catching depth. The third player, now getting back on schedule here, Zhuang is a 25-year-old right-handed pitcher from Taiwan. He signed with the A's back in 2021 and has worked as a minor league starter. He tossed 145 and 2/3 innings pitched at Double-A Midland in 2025, pitching to a 4.08 ERA with solid underlying numbers. Zhuang fanned 24% of opponents while showing excellent control with a sub-6% walk percentage. Baseball America ranked him 25th in the A's system coming into the year, crediting him with plus command and an above-average changeup, but fringy breaking stuff. So that is who is added and protected and now new to the 40-man roster. So get to know them. You're going to hear about these guys come spring training time for sure. Wonder if any of these guys will earn or win an opportunity at the big league level, or if they will all start at their respective minor league level. We'll have to follow along their progress as this offseason and spring training rolls along. All right, before we continue on, we are going to take a quick break to do an ad read for a supporter. Back after this. Welcome to Mesa, Arizona, a destination for every season. Experience a destination where adventure, culture, and culinary experiences are limitless. As the gateway to the stunning Sonoran Desert and Tonto National Forest, Mesa invites you to explore its scenic waterways, kayak through winding canyons, or paddleboard along the Salt River. For a one-of-a-kind desert adventure, ride the waves of Rebel Surf at Cannon Beach, the country's first surf park of its kind. Downtown Mesa is a vibrant hub, home to the Mesa Art Center, public art, award-winning breweries, and local shops. Food lovers can explore the Fresh Foodie Trail and the diverse flavors of Mesa's Asian District. Sports fans can experience MLB spring training with the Chicago Cubs and athletics, or visit one of North America's largest youth sports complexes. As the world's first autism-certified city, Mesa is dedicated to accessibility and inclusivity for all visitors. All right, we're back. We are going to get to the back half of today's show. Definitely glad to be here talking all about the A's. All right, let's get to our next topic of discussion. We are going to explore what are the options out there to add to the bullpen. So let's talk about a big area of improvement, the bullpen. The A's bullpen ranked 24th in all of baseball with a 4.53 ERA. There's room for improvement without a doubt. I think their goal should be to be looking for a bona fide closer with experience, with Mason Miller no longer in the building. And I think it can't hurt to add some higher leverage guys to that back end. I think there were a lot of guys like a Sean Newcomb, who we're going to talk about here in a minute. He's a free agent. There's guys like Hogan Harris, Elvis Alvarado, guys that stepped up in big time situations at the back end of the game, at end of games, when it was closer by committee, get to the finish line by committee. The bullpen was the second best bullpen in all of baseball in Cleveland, and they really kept answering the bell, putting up zeros, and it was a different guy every night, it felt like. So I think that's a good conglomerate to have going into 2026 and could make a once was viewed as a weakness into a potential strength. I think now you can just add the finishing touches on it by bringing in a bona fide closer with that experience to a group that's hungry to keep putting up zeros and getting outs. And bringing in that someone, maybe they have postseason experience, but at least getting to out number 27, having a guy that's proven to do it time and time again really sends shockwaves in a positive way all through your bullpen staff, your team as a whole. I mean, that really sets that ending foundation to a game that picks up the juices. Maybe when the team's a little fatigued and needs that little oomph at the end of a game, that closer can bring that juice and help be the driving force to get the team through that finish line victorious. So we'll go through some options of guys that are closers, setup guys, middle relief. It's a little bit of everything, but I do think that is what the A's need. I think while we're talking closer, which I think is important, I think you're going to need some more bridge guys too as well. I can see them bringing in a setup guy. I could see them just adding pieces until they feel like they're not going to be in the situation where they're going to overtax certain guys. So if you have two guys that can serve a purpose, you can, have guys be fresher and not have to go into that 70, 80 game appearance range. In a game where pitchers aren't going as deep into games as they used to, putting a lot more of that burden on these bullpens across baseball. Appearances are up. Innings out of the bullpen are up. So, and maybe there's a turn from what we saw in the postseason where it seemed like starters finally went deeper into games again, which was fun to see. But all in all, over the course of 162, you are going to see these teams dial back on their starters from time to time, even if it does go back to regress to the median a little bit. So I think it's important that I think if you can get some of these best guys available, this market is flooded with them for sure. We're going to explore the free agent market first, and then a couple of trade options, just some research I think would be interesting for the A's to maybe pick up the phone and see what it would take. So let's start on the free agent option side. We're going to just name some of the big fish first. Don't think this is in the realm of possibility, but we'll start with Edwin Diaz, who was the Mets closer this past season, age 31. On the 2025 season, he appeared in 62 games, pitched to a 6-3 win-loss record with a 1.63 ERA. In 66 and the third innings pitched, allowed 21 walks, 98 strikeouts, a .87 whip, and racked up 32 saves. He was a 2025 All-Star and was the 2025 National League Reliever of the Year. He was absolutely dominant. Filthy stuff, seemed to be at the absolute peak of his powers. His contract value is determined to range somewhere around 4 to 5 years in contract length to $80 to $100 million. So he is really trying to cash in after the type of season he just put up. I just don't think the A's are going to be in that running / I don't think that Diaz is going to want to pitch in a smaller market like Sacramento. I think with a lot of these bigger markets like Los Angeles, obviously the New York Mets, I think are going to want to retain his services too as well. There's going to be a lot of those big markets I think may turn this into a bidding war. And who knows, that number could get inflated even higher than that range. I don't think it would go too far beyond it, but you just never know. When Steve Cohen from the Mets and the Dodgers are involved, anything can happen. They've given out some big contracts in the past, and they're going to continue to do so this free agent period and for years to come, as long as the offices as they are being run remain intact. So, like I said, I just want to mention Diaz. I don't think this is a realistic option for the A's. These are just some of the top names that are on the market. Another guy that I don't think they are going to be in the market for is a guy, Robert Suarez, the closer for the San Diego Padres. He is entering his age 35 season. On the 2025 season, he pitched 70 games, compiled a 4-6 win-loss record with a 2.97 ERA. In 69 2/3 innings pitched, allowed 16 walks, 75 strikeouts, a .90 whip, and racked up 40 saves, which led the National League. His contract value is determined to fall in the range of 3 to 4 years, worth $62 to $80 million. Again, I don't think this is someone that the A's are even going to open discussions about. And I'd be a little bit leery here, to be honest. I know Suarez has been one of the best closers in the National League for quite some time now. But, you know, you can only bet against Father Time for so long. And I would be more comfortable in this range with a 2-year contract as compared to 3 to 4 years, paying a 35-year-old. And I know Suarez has earned it late, leading the National League in saves this past season. It's just a tricky situation, and I don't know if I would want to put those many eggs in that basket for a closer at that age. Now, if he was in where Diaz is, that's, I think, a different story. Obviously, it would be great to have a closer like that on your team, but I think at the right price. All right, now we're going to get in the range of guys that I do believe the A's could have some consideration for, without a doubt, especially with some of these reworked contract values based on some 2024 down performances from a couple of these guys, not all of these guys that I'm going to name off here. But I think this is kind of the area where the A's are at least going to have some discussions about maybe some interactions with some of these teams' front offices. So let's start with someone heading into this past season. I thought he was going to get paid in the range of where Edwin Diaz is. It's amazing what one season of underperformance to his standard can do to your contract value, because this guy I'm about to talk about was valued at about getting 4 years, $70 million, maybe a little bit more. And now his contract value is currently set at 1 year, $10 to $16 million. So basically a prove-it deal to go somewhere, show them your return to form that you are one of the best closers in all of baseball, and then maybe heading into the 2027 season, depending how your 2026 goes, you're going to get that big contract. And of course, I'm talking about Ryan Helsley, who was the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals before getting traded to the New York Mets and serving in a high leverage role. He wasn't closing there due to Edwin Diaz being there, but was still called upon at some important moments, and he didn't quite perform like he had in years past. He kind of struggled, especially in the second half of the season. You wonder if there was that adjustment from being the guy at the end of the game, being that closer, to kind of having to carve out a new role, whether that's a setup man or middle relief. You are still coming in those high leverage situations, but I do know relievers and especially closers are creatures of habit, so I'm sure it took some time to adjust. And I think he's probably looking forward to returning to that closer role in 2026. There's going to be plenty of suitors for his services, especially being on that 1 year deal. We'll get back to that in a little bit, but definitely seems like someone's going to be a hot commodity, especially if you only have to commit 1 year to the guy at this point. On the 2025 campaign, he pitched in 58 games. He pitched 56 innings, 25 walks, 63 strikeouts, a 1.54 whip, and 21 saves. Had a 4+ ERA. Just wasn't the necessary standard that we're accustomed to with Helsley. So very interested to see how he bounces back in 2026 and where he ends up. But I do think this is a guy that the A's definitely should talk to for some extended length, without a doubt. Next up, Devin Williams pitched for the New York Yankees this past season, entering his age 31 season. On the 2025 campaign, he pitched 67 games, 4-6 win-loss record with a 4.79 ERA. In 62 innings pitched, allowed 25 walks, racked up 90 strikeouts, a 1.13 whip, and 18 saves. So Devin Williams he had the tale of two seasons. He was the closer for his whole career in Milwaukee before getting traded to the New York Yankees heading into the 2025 season. And it did not go well. It didn't go as planned from the start, at least for the first half of the season. He was brought on to be the team's closer, and he was struggling with getting to that finish line, blew some saves, was definitely feeling it from the crowd. They were booing him for his poor performances, and I do think it was actively affecting Williams mentally. So I think that arranged marriage is how I like to call trades. It took some time to get used to. And I think by the second half of the season, and certainly by playoffs end, he was one of their most reliable relievers, right behind David Bednar. And that's just amazing that you can really just kind of get through the struggle and stick with it you can get back to your bread and butter and what got you successful. He has that airbender changeup that has been regarded as one of the best pitches in all baseball. Definitely regressed in 2025, but he's expected to command a multi-year deal right around $45 million. They're projecting a 3-year, $45 million contract. I'm sure he'll have plenty of suitors, including potentially returning to New York, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams interested in Williams, so we'll see how that pans out. Again, I think the A's should take a flyer here. I don't think they're necessarily going to be in the running here. I think Sacramento could be a good market for Williams to reclaim his form and kind of not nearly as much as the pressure of that New York media. And you can kind of see a return to who he was more in Milwaukee. At that contract, that would be a very team-friendly deal. So, like I said, maybe you at least inquire and see what it would look like. But more than likely, I think Williams ends up maybe not back in New York, but I still see a bigger market as compared to what the A's could currently offer. All right, moving on. Another reliever. Well, this guy is a closer with experience and definitely piqued my interest here. Talking about Pete Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays, age 31. On the 2025 season, he appeared in 61 games, 60 and 1/3 innings pitched, allowed 18 walks, 59 strikeouts, and a 104 WHIP, racking up 27 saves. He is valued to get a contract in the range of 2 years, $16 million. Fairbanks, I'm very intrigued by. He definitely has that good postseason experience, especially earlier on in his career with the Rays, but he's got that closing experience, and that is a very team-friendly contract. It just seems like he brings that commanding presence that when he gets the ball, the game is going to be over. And he put up another fine season. I don't think necessarily it was one of his best, but definitely this would be a guy that would slot right in and be one of the A's top relievers right away. He would set that tone with that calm presence, but kind of feels like it's game over when he's in there. At that contract value, definitely someone I think the A's should engage with some discussions in without a doubt. Moving along, a familiar name. We're talking about left-handed pitcher Sean Newcomb. Started the year with the Boston Red Sox, ended the season with the A's, age 32. On the 2025 campaign, he appeared in 48 games, pitched 92 and 1/3 innings pitched, allowed 31 walks, 91 strikeouts, a 1.35 WHIP, and racked up 2 saves, both with the A's. He pitched to a 1.75 ERA in 36 games with the A's last year. He's valued to get a contract of 1 year, $2 million. This is a no-brainer here. I don't want to give any spoilers here, but we are going to talk about some guys that we want to see the A's pursue a little bit further and who we'd really like out of all these options. But to me, this is a no doubt. $2 million for one of your most reliable relievers, a lefty specialist, but he can pitch to both sides of the plate, so can be just as effective against right-handed hitters too as well. This is just screams value. This should be one of the first things you get done out there on the open market because it's a no-brainer. It's not going to count against anything really on your salary cap or on your payroll, and I think this is someone that slots in right into that middle role and be a positive, consistent bridge from that starter to the closer to that setup man. And obviously, depending on where teams are at in the order, if they are left-handed heavy in that 8th inning or 9th, whatever the case may be, you can call upon Newcomb to be able to get to the finish line. He proved it way more times than not. All right, moving along. Next free agent option, Emilio Pagan from the Cincinnati Reds, age 34. On the 2025 campaign, he appeared in 70 games, pitched to a 2-4 win-loss record with a 2.88 ERA, and 68 and 2/3 innings pitched, issued 22 walks, racked up 81 strikeouts, a .92 WHIP, and locked down 32 saves. His contract is valued at 2 years, $22 million. Again, I don't think that's commanding too much. I think the A's could be in the running here. I'm not saying that they will dive in deep. I think, again, there's going to be plenty of teams inquiring about his services. He's coming off one of his best seasons of his career. At age 34, I do like the 2 years. I don't think 22 is too much, and would be very interested to see who is all in. There'll be multiple teams in inquiring for his services. So interested to see where Pagan ends up. But again, another guy with closing experience. More guys with closing experience. How about Kyle Finnegan, who started this season with the Washington Nationals, gets traded to the Detroit Tigers at the trade deadline, entering his age 34 season. On the 2025 campaign, he appeared in 56 games, pitching to a 4-4 win-loss record with a 3.47 ERA and 57 innings pitched, issued 18 walks, racked up 55 strikeouts, locked down 24 saves, and a 1.1 WHIP. 2 years, $20 million is what his contract is valued at. Again, just kind of one of those guys. You get to see how the market plays out, but I think depending on what direction it goes, the A's could be in a guy like this. He does bring good veteran experience at the back end of a bullpen. Not necessarily postseason experience, but definitely someone you feel like that can get you to that finish line more times than not with the 24 saves in his bag, but has racked up plenty more than that in his career thus far. And finally, the next guy we're going to talk about before moving on to trade options, going to talk about Luke Weaver, who pitched for the Yankees entering age 32 season. On the 2025 campaign, he pitched in 64 games, racking up a 4-4 win-loss record with a 3.62 ERA. In 64 2/3 innings pitched, issued 20 walks, racked up 72 strikeouts, pitching to a 1.02 WHIP, and had 8 saves. His contract is valued at 3 years, $30 million. So he's a very intriguing case here. I don't think this is someone the A's will necessarily dive too far into. However, if they are looking to upgrade their swingman type of position role where you can have a guy that can slide in at the back end of your rotation or be a multi-inning reliever, Luke Weaver could fit that bill, because at season's end he did make it clear that he would be interested in making an attempt at being a starter once again. He does have closing experience with how good his 2024 season was, racking up over 100 strikeouts in his work, but then moving in, serving multi-purposes this year, where he filled in as closer while Devin Williams tried to find his way, and then moving back to that middle reliever. Wasn't thrusted into a starting role over the last 2 seasons, but certainly is someone that has starting experience in his time in the past with his years with the Cincinnati Reds or the Arizona Diamondbacks, wherever his stops would be. So he's done a little bit of everything on the mound. I don't think it's one of the worst guys to have. I do think just the high volume of usage, it seems like he's been under over the last couple of seasons with that World Series run going into the postseason this year. It seems like the Yankees have called upon him so much, and you wonder if he's suffering through a little bit of burnout, because you saw those midseason struggles this year. Wasn't quite as sharp and effective as they had grown accustomed to seeing him pitch, but maybe just being in a different role, getting a fresh start, may have an opportunity for him to just kind of reset and flip that switch. Don't be surprised if he does go back to the Yankees. I think there'll be some teams here in on his services, just kind of depending on what Weaver desires to do in terms of role and what teams envision him the role that he can serve for them. So very curious to see about where Weaver ends up. All right, let's get to some trade options. So only got a couple here that really stood out to me. I think the bulk of reliever and free agent upgrades are going to be via free agency. Via on the trade side, I think one guy that stood out was Dennis Santana. He's only 1 year removed from free agency, and he has a spotty track record in his career thus far. He really didn't have some sort of consistent MLB success until he was waived by the Yankees, and Pittsburgh picked him up in June of 2024. But he's been now since joining the Pirates, pitching to a 2.18 ERA and 70 1/3 innings pitched for them last season, and he saved 16 games after David Bednar was traded to the New York Yankees. So that could be one guy you can add in as a middle reliever. Another guy with closing experience, also setup experience, Jeff Hoffman of the Toronto Blue Jays. Could also see the Blue Jays this offseason trading from their surplus of outfielders, especially if they need to clear some salary space if they're able to re-sign Bo Bichette, who's going to be commanding a $200 million+ deal. At which point they would be bringing back all 13 of the team leaders in plate appearances, but between the 4.37 ERA during the regular season and the Miguel Rojas home run that will forever live in World Series infamy in Canada, if the Blue Jays aren't aggressively shopping Hoffman this winter, they're at least going to be receptive to offers. It helps that there are plenty of closers available in free agency to backfill that job. So, what I would love to see, like I already mentioned, got to re-sign Sean Newcomb. I think that's very cost-friendly. $2 million barely makes a dent on the Bucks. Then from there, I would like to inquire about that Dennis Santana trade. I do think he is someone that is a good depth piece to have in the middle of your bullpen. But then, really, team-friendly contracts you can get to guys with closing experience. I would love to see them making a push for Pete Fairbanks and Ryan Helsley. Between that group, you're committing $25 to $32 million tops. You got room for it. Even if you sign all those guys at that maximum value, with how the roster is constructed right now, $70 million. That's all it would take your payroll to. Not going to have to do a whole lot after that. Yeah, you're going to want to make a big splash with a starting pitcher in the rotation. But then after that, you have your offense in place. You're going to just maybe try to bring along some add-on pieces. Maybe upgrade at second base. Maybe upgrade at third base. But your major upgrades are going to be in the pitching side of things. And it's time to start showing some life here. Get some people excited about baseball in Sacramento. Get people excited about wanting to come play for the A's. Not just living by those three true outcomes. Not just doing the bare minimum just to get by. I think if you foster this and continue to build this in the right direction, there's a lot of greener pastures ahead for the green and gold. But you got to support it along the way. And this team, they're ascending. They keep winning more games than they have the year before. They won 76 games this past season. You take away those 3 weeks, who knows? Or cut it in half. But you got to do something. You can't do the bare minimum. The bullpen was one of the areas of weaknesses, which led to that 3-week stretch, along with other things. But until post Mason Miller trade, this is one of the worst bullpens in all baseball. So I'm all about the full assortment, the full overview of a season, the full product, and it needs tweaking. So I think that's a pretty good plan, and I think there's other guys that they could pursue too as well. But to me, that would make most sense if they don't want to go on a massive spending spree but still make this bullpen 1,000 times better than it was last year by bringing one guy back and adding 3. Sounds like a pretty good plan to me. All right, let's move to the back end of today's show and present the newest edition of This Player in A's History. This Player in A's History, we're talking about Carney Lansford. On today's edition of This Player in A's History, we're taking it back to the 80s. When reflecting on the greatness of the late 80s, early 90s Oakland Athletics, 3 straight pennants come to mind. The 1988-90 teams with a World Series title in the middle of that in 1989. One of the constants in the midst of teams with the likes of Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Dave Stewart, and Dennis Eckersley, one constant was third baseman Carney Lansford. Lansford, he was born in San Jose, California. Carney's team made it to the Little League World Series at Williamsport, PA in 1969, representing to the Santa Clara Little League team, which represented the West region of the United States, made it all the way to the Little League World Series finals before losing to Taiwan 5-0. Lansford, growing up in high school, was a three-sport star. He played football, basketball, and baseball at Adrian C. Wilcox High School right in Santa Clara, California. Although he was good enough to earn scholarships in both to play football and basketball at the college level, Lansford chose to pursue a career in professional baseball. The California Angels would go on to select him in the 3rd round of the amateur draft on June 3rd, 1975. Carney signed with the Angels, who assigned him to the Idaho Falls of the Pioneer League, a rookie league. After 2.5 seasons in the minors, he made his MLB debut joining the Angels in the 1978 season. He made his Major League debut on April 8th, 1978, pinch hitting for Rance Molnix against Dave Hirvello in the bottom of the 9th inning in a 4-2 loss to Oakland. Lansford flew out to right field in the at-bat. Lansford missed a month of playing time from June 11th to July 7th of that season when he strained ligaments in his left thumb. The injury was actually the result of a collision at home plate with New York Yankee catcher Mike Heath in the bottom of the ninth inning of a game at Angel Stadium. The collision set off a benches clearing brawl between the two teams. In 121 games, Lansford batted .294. In February of 1979, Lansford and his longtime girlfriend Deborah Samora tied the knot in Northern California. They got married. Lansford from there was having a superb sophomore season back on the diamond, batting .308 at the All-Star break. However, he was passed over for New York Yankees third baseman Craig Nettles for selection to the All-Star game, the Midsummer Classic. But if the 1979 season was a successful one for the Angels and Lansford, the 1980 season was the exact opposite, as they were finding themselves in the cellar of the AL West, 16 and a half games back of the Kansas City Royals. Lansford was batting .285 that season at the end of July, but his average plummeted all the way down in August at .218. In September, he hit .232. Bavasi had the solution, ordering Lansford to start wearing glasses. And he quotes, "Every time I'd start to slump," this is coming from Lansford, "Buzzy would send me to the eye doctor," in a 1981 interview. And last year, the guy said one eye couldn't carry the other anymore and that I should start wearing glasses. I just couldn't get used to them in the middle of the season. At the 1980 winter meetings in Dallas, the Angels and Red Sox pulled off a 5-player swap on December 10th. Boston sent shortstop Rick Burleson and third baseman Butch Hobson to California for pitcher Mike Clear, outfielder Rick Miller, and Carney Lansford. They didn't want to give up Lansford, but they said they had to have Burleson. And that was coming from Boston manager Ralph Hoke. "We said we had to have Lansford and built it that way. It's a deal that was fun to work on because it made sense." The Red Sox were a perennial contender in the AL East, compiled with a solid nucleus of Jim Rice, Dwight Evans, Glenn Hoffman, Jerry Remy, and an aging Carl Yastrzemski. Lansford and Miller were welcome additions to the mix. The 1981 season was divided into two halves for each division. The playoffs were expanded by one round, with each division winner from the first half playing the second half winner. Unfortunately for Boston, they did not finish in first place in either half. Carney Lansford ended up being the 1981 AL batting champion, leading the league in batting with a .336 batting average, as he easily topped Seattle's Tom Pasieric by 10 points. One of the highlights for Lansford was a career-best 5-for-5 day against the Royals on May 17th, 1981. At the winter meetings in Honolulu a year later, the Red Sox, and this is where our A's Day story begins, the Red Sox and A's made the biggest splash on the first day. On December 6th in 1982, Boston sent Lansford outfielder Gary Hancock and minor league pitcher Jerry King to Oakland for outfielder Tony Armas and catcher Jeff Newman, along with Lansford. That was Boston was sending Lansford, Hancock, and minor league pitcher Jerry King in that deal to Oakland. The emergence and potential of Wade Boggs was certainly a motivating factor in trading Lansford, but also Lansford was approaching his free agency at the end of the season. The trade held an extra bonus for Lansford as he was headed home, and this is a quote from Oakland president Roy Eisenhart. "Tony is a player he hates to lose, but we had to improve our infield. We got the exact player we wanted, as good of a third baseman as there is in the game. We're set at third now for at least 5 years." When he returned, he sprained his wrist against Baltimore on April 27th. When he came back 2 weeks later, but the wrist still gave him problems, Lansford went on to the disabled list and did not return to the club until June 14th. He re-injured his left ankle during a doubleheader at Cleveland on August 24th. Although Lansford did not remember how he injured the ankle, the pain became too severe in the second game. He missed another month of the season, returning for 2 games at the end of the campaign. Lansford performed well when he was healthy, hitting .308 in 80 games. He stroked 10 home runs and drove in 45 runs. Oakland finished the year in fourth place in the American League West with a 74 and 88 record, a full 25 games out of first place. A's got off to a 20 and 24 record the following season in 1984, and Burroughs was replaced with Jackie Moore. Lansford played a full season, leading the team in hitting with a .300 average in 151 games. In 1985, Lansford's season was once again shortened by injury. On July 25th, Milwaukee's Pete Ladd hit Lansford on the right wrist with a pitch, causing a hairline fracture. At the time of the injury, the A's were 49 and 46 in third place of the AL West, 7 games behind the division-leading California Angels. Lansford said at the time, "It's tough, especially at this time. We're going to be playing the Angels at home. These are big games. This is what you wait all season for." Lansford was batting .282 at the time of the injury, was also amidst a streak of 47 errorless games. Although Lansford returned to the game a month later, the wrist continued to give him pain and he was shut down for the season. But the most important change of this era of A's franchise history came on July 7th when Tony La Russa was hired to replace Moore as the A's manager. Jeff Newman served as interim manager for 10 games. But La Russa had been fired 3 weeks earlier by the Chicago White Sox. He had some success in Chicago, winning the AL West in 1983, and he finished in third place 3 other seasons. The focus of the A's was the Bash brothers Canseco and McGuire, and for good reason. McGuire set a rookie home run record with 49 home runs in 1987, while Canseco added 31. Lansford tied his career best with 19 and batted .289, which was tied with Mark McGuire for the team best. Also added was veteran Don Baylor, who assessed Carney Lansford in his later book as Mr. Intensity. He ranks in my top 5 base runners when it comes to knowledge of breaking up double players. Carney is a workaholic and an uncanny fielder. When he came up with the Angels, they tried to plant a lot of negative thoughts in his head, telling him he didn't have lateral range and he needed glasses. Fortunately, Carney did not listen. Instead, he made himself into one of the brilliant third basemen of our time. He knows every inch of ground in the extremely spacious foul territory in Oakland. He knows every other park as if he's played in each his entire career. You can't learn to be that good. It's instinctive. Carney is also good people, intelligent, caring, a guy who would walk through a wall to help a friend. Some very high praise there from Don Baylor. Lansford batted .279 and was selected to the All-Star game for the only time in his career in the 1988 season. After defeating Boston in the American League Championship Series, the A's would go on to face the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Oakland was deemed the heavy favorite, but the A's were upset by the Dodgers in 5 games. The following season, Rickey Henderson returned to Oakland for his second tour of duty on July 24, 1989, acquired through a trade with the New York Yankees. He appeared in 85 games and still led the club with 52 stolen bases. Lansford was second on the team with 37 stolen bases, a career high, and he led the team in hitting with a .336 batting average. The A's suffered a number of injuries during the season, but Lansford was healthy and steady, even filling in at first base when Mark McGuire landed on the disabled list. No other Oakland player hit over .300 in 1989. He was selected to the Sporting News AL All-Star team. Oakland finished with a record of 99 and 63, won their second straight divisional title in 1989, and dispatched Toronto in 5 games in the ALCS. Lansford led the hit parade against the Blue Jays, batting .455 with 4 RBIs. The A's faced their neighbors across the Bay, the San Francisco Giants, in the 1989 World Series. Oakland won the first 2 games handedly at home before the series shifted to Candlestick Park. Before Game 3 could get underway, the Bay Area was struck on Tuesday, October 17th, by the legendary earthquake. The stadium shook and was evacuated without further damage, but that was not the case with the rest of the area as the earthquake was left destruction in its wake. After a week, the series resumed. The games had an anticlimactic feel as the series was now a secondary event. Oakland steamrolled over the Giants to sweep them in 4 extremely one-sided games. And another quote from Lansford after last year's disappointing loss to the Dodgers: "The most gratifying part about the winning this year was showing the whole world what the A's are really like." The Oakland third baseman led the A's in hitting once again as he batted .438 with 1 home run and 4 RBIs in the series. Oakland won their 3rd consecutive pennant the following season in 1990, sweeping Boston. The shoe was on the other foot when their opponent in the World Series, the Cincinnati Reds, swept the A's. Jose Rio beat Dave Stewart twice and selected as the World Series most valuable player. On December 31st, following that 1990 season, Lansford was involved in a snowmobile accident on his ranch in Oregon. He suffered severe cartilage and some ligament damage to his left knee and right shoulder. Lansford returned to the A's lineup on July 19th of the 1991 season, but after a total of 5 games, his left knee began to ache and he was put on the shelf for the season. A's would go on to finish 84-78 in that season and slump to 4th place in the AL West in 1991. One highlight towards the end of Lansford's career came on June 13th at home against the Texas Rangers. In the first inning, Lansford smacked his first home run of the season. The solo shot was a big one. It was also the 2,000th hit of his career. I told the clubhouse guy, I don't care what you have to give this guy for the ball, I want it. I'll give him my Porsche, I want that ball, said Carney. Lansford batted .262 in 1992. Oakland would go on to be eliminated by Toronto in the ALCS in 6 games, and that would be the end of Carney Lansford's career. He would retire after the 1992 season, concluding a 15-year Major League career. Over his career, where he played for the California Angels, the Boston Red Sox, and the Oakland A's, he played in 1,862 games, batted .290 with 151 home runs, 874 RBIs, a .753 OPS, and he collected 2,074 hits, 332 doubles, and 224 stolen bases. As for his A's career, which covered 10 of those seasons, he appeared in 1,203 games, batted .288 with 94 home runs, 548 RBIs, 201 doubles, 1,317 hits, 146 stolen bases, and a .747 OPS. In 1994, Carney Lansford would move on to some post-career opportunities where he had a minor role in the remake of the movie Angels in the Outfield. From there, he was quoted as saying that he would immensely miss the game after his retirement. He found his way back into Major League dugouts as he would go on to join Tony La Russa's staff as a coach in Oakland from 1994 to the 1995 seasons. And then again, once La Russa went to St. Louis to take the Cardinals job, he served on the staff for the 1997 and 1998 seasons. And then he would find himself in the hitting coach role in San Francisco for the 2008 and 2009 seasons, and then in Colorado with the Rockies for the 2011 and 2012 seasons. And then later on, he would eventually be inducted into the Athletics Hall of Fame in 2023. Till present day, Carney Lansford is retired and living in Mesa, Arizona, the home of A's spring training. His reputation as one of the best hitting third basemen of his generation and his role as a key to the A's 3 straight pennants highlight his career. He overcame serious injuries and persevered. He had the heart of a lion, a heart of a champion, making the name Carney Lansford a wonderful reminder to A's fans everywhere. And that concludes another edition of This Player in A's History. And that concludes another edition of A's Day. We appreciate each and every one of you kicking off your weekend with us here at A's Day. On today's show, we talked about the surprising move where JJ Bleday was designated for assignment. Then later we discussed the 3 players that were added to the Athletics 40-man roster to protect them from the Rule 5 draft. And then later we discussed this player, first we explored what options could be available to the A's to upgrade their area of need, the bullpen. And then before we got on out of here, we ended the show on a high note talking about this player in A's history, all about Carney Lansford, one of the franchise's all-time greats. We appreciate each and every one of you taking part of your day listening to us here at A's Day. We'll be back behind the mic for Monday's show. We're going to have some fun with it. We are going to create the formula for the A's to ascend to the levels of the Blue Jays and be the 2026 version of Toronto. And we will also give you what would an ideal lineup look like. That will include our dream free agent and trades included in that exercise too as well. Let's have some fun on Monday and do our part to shape the future of this team. Really, real talk, what we're doing is providing that stopgap of off-season podcasting until it is time for the boys of summer to get heated up in Mesa, Arizona for spring training once again, and for the return of regular season baseball in March of 2026. That's all I have for you today. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grotto. Appreciate each and every one of you stopping by. We'll be back Monday to talk more A's baseball. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll see you Monday. Holy Toledo, let's go A's.